The
Are you
4B movement, the movement of I don't like you, you're ugly, you're misogynistic, I'm not having your
I'd rather die
women
than have your
I'd
child.
rather die, yeah.
I would rather die than have a kid with this man. It's like so fucking funny.
Honestly, work.
Okay.
I
Fair
support it.
I know that sounds very logical, and if that's their take on that, it would be amazing. But don't you think that in reality people do the same? In my experience, when this is gonna get me canceled, but I just want their opinion. Maybe we'll bleep it out. But
Sure.
don't you find I feel that will be my strategy, just to not feel the pressure from my PTSD from Canada. I'll just say, if there's something that would get me canceled, just in my mind I'll think about it. You'll bleep it out, but I'll forget that we're recording, because otherwise it's like PTSD gets activated. But okay.
We won't blip it. We'll put it on text in front of the, like, a quote. That's gonna be the title of the video.
Okay. I'm just gonna pretend we're not recording. But this is an honest question. Don't you think that like that mindset would shock me? Because in reality, the many, not all, but some single mothers that I have met, they actually never thought about that. They were like, and this is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today, is like they are so overwhelmed by the initial reaction that that was enough to get pregnant, then have a child, and then the dad never was in the picture, left, or whatever the case was, and then they have all these hindsight reflections about, he had all these bad traits, I should have thought about this carefully. And of course it's different, because men don't have the risk of getting pregnant, so it's also it's like a bigger pressure on them. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but my point is, having that mindset beforehand is rare. Like, if that makes sense, it's like people generally have the awakening after the child, not before. If that makes sense.
I see what you mean, because
Yeah.
that's like the Latin American way. Like, people get pregnant and then
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh my god,
And then
I
they ask
shouldn't
questions.
have. But I think it's a lack of education, and also I'm not an expert in Korea or anything, but like from what I've heard, the situation is so extreme in terms of misogyny and disrespect to women that it tipped them to be like this. Like, in Latin America, it's not like that. Like, in Korea, it's like genuinely they treat their women like trash. Like, it's bad. That's why women have like made the decision to be like, okay, enough.
But if I understand correctly, Miguel, your point is that you're thinking about women who end up getting pregnant but didn't ask themselves the question whether they wanted a kid, how the future is going to be, etc. It's like being pregnant and then asking questions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I have spoken to them sometimes, and they are like, I don't think like logic is ever part of the picture. It's like
No.
just giving in to this extreme attraction that they feel. And maybe this is more like a philosophical question, but well, I don't know how I ended up here, but this is like basically natural selection, if we want to go there. Like, supposedly, I am not a scientist, but like women have like the final say who they pick. And even in birds, you see some male birds that would compete and dance and make all these things to like
just like humans.
Yeah, exactly, like humans. So
Fair enough.
So when I have actually spoken to some friends and they start explaining why they got attracted to this guy, it's never a logical thing, right? And it's so illogical sometimes that they are willing to have the baby and get pregnant by him rather than any other guy, even if he's never in the picture. And this sounds so weird, but that's why it shocked me so much about Korea. But I don't know where I'm
No,
going.
I think you're making a lot of sense there. Well, first, the heart wants what it wants, right? Like we've all been in relationships that we shouldn't have been in, but we
Yeah.
all turn a blind eye to things because the passion, because the feelings, because we're not thinking straight. But I think that there's a couple factors that explains everything that you were talking about. First, the historical aspect of things that we were all supposed to, and we were conditioned into thinking that the normal path of life was you're born, you get raised, you go to school, then you
You're
graduate, you
married.
find a job, you get married, you have kids. That's the normal quote unquote way. So of course kids were always part of the pictures. We were just
we were
take
gaslit into it.
exactly take a second to realize how many shows and movies and piece of media like a book or something that you've seen that that directs you towards this, that directs you towards giving you the idea, the dream, the fantasy of being married, having kids, etc. Like for myself, I'm gonna pick myself as an example because it's like the best one I can find. But I was raised thinking that I was gonna be a dad one day. That was like baseline. It was like I'm gonna have kids, I'm gonna raise them that way. And we all talk about it at some point. Like, when I have kids, and we're like 8, we're like 6, you know, we don't know what it means. We have this idea that one day we're gonna be parents, but we're children ourselves. And later on in
we
life,
even propose like at that age.
True.
Have you seen?
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah, at 6 you get
fake
married.
weddings.
Yeah.
I've had a fake wedding on my own. I was like 8, but like this is what it starts with, like the cultural aspect. We've been raised to think a certain way. We've been directed towards thinking a certain way, but then afterwards, for myself, after going into relationships and getting into that world and dipping my toe into like the dating pool, then self-esteem, self-image issues arise. And for years I didn't want kids. I was categorical. I was like, I do not want kids. I'm never gonna have kids. It is what it is. Introspecting later on, I was like, maybe I didn't want kids for the wrong reasons, but it is something that I feel like newer generations have less of because a lot of things evolved since then. But we are like millennials, we're the last generation that were ingrained that idea into us, that it was like you need to get married, you need, and on top of that there's all the homophobia thing, that it was like you need to get married with someone from the opposite gender.
Yeah.
It's like those things were enforced, and I feel like it left residue into all of us, and it was the norm. It's the plan, is everything. You need to, as a man, you need to provide, you need to have kids, you need to I was talking to my stepdad, and he was telling me how he raised his own kids in a very stern way, that he never had a heart to heart with them because he was their dad. He was not supposed to do that, and he used those terms. He was like, I was not supposed to do it. So he never learned how to look within himself and be honest with his kids, and up until recently, where he found out that his kids were carrying kind of long-lasting trauma from that, because they were like, I had a cold ass dad. And right now we're swaying more into gentle parenting, and I feel like it's a symptom of everything, where people don't get married as much, people don't have kids as much, they're focusing on careers, they're focusing on all of this, and it might bring some negative quote-unquote effects because of countries like Korea and Japan where they're getting extinct. But it's not just for the same reason, because you can always save a population by bringing more immigrants, by bring all the weebs from the US to Japan. They're gonna impregnate all the Japanese women.
Bring Latinos. That's
Bring
anywhere.
That
And
creeps
that's gonna
me.
repopulate. Don't worry.
Wait. Actually, I wanna how do you say, like, offer a counter argument. How do you say this? Like steelman or strongman? What's the difference? Do you know the difference?
Strawman.
And what's a steelman? Because there are two. I don't know the definition.
No idea, but I know the strawman defense is like the last minute argument is like, oh my god.
Okay, strawman is like showing the other side, like the other view.
I think so.
Okay, so to strawman that, maybe the internet will correct me, but I actually have seen that even in Ecuador, our home country, and this might shock you, Anna, I don't know if you have seen this, but our population growth has also started slowing since the 70s or the 80s. So the trend, and this has been, I remember being a
Especially-
teenager and thinking about this, even before like the whole, like gender wars started, and the world is in the state it is in right now. I remember thinking, and you probably tease me about this, but what if people just don't want to reproduce, right? Like, what would happen?
We go back to seek.
I mean, yeah, we do.
I would think about this
We
like
do.
as a teenager, and now
Yeah.
when I saw this article and I was reading it, I had suspected it, but then I was seeing, South American population growth, specifically in Ecuador. It's like, what's the strategy of the developed countries? Oh, we need more reproduction. We'll import people, right? And then
Yeah,
they'll have
pretty
kids
much.
here. But what if you don't have any other country to import from? If that makes sense. Like, what if they are also becoming extinct? Like, what do you
Fair
do?
enough.
And I'm like,
I mean, isn't there historical examples of this? I feel like there is. I have this vague memory of like tribes on a way smaller scale, right? Like tribes that just decided not to have children at all, and then they eventually went extinct. Like it's
Yes.
a real possibility.
yes.
It's a real thing. If you decide on an overall scale not to have, let's imagine that you have a totalitarian government in a country that prevents you from having kids, then eventually give it a couple dozen years and the population is gonna just fade away.
Yes.
That's what's happening in Japan, because everyone's getting old and the workforce is suffering, but at the same time you see those countries, but you see the counterexample of, but we're overpopulating the world. And I've heard this since I was a baby, pretty much, that the
Yeah.
world has too many people.
Yes.
And-
What do you think about that, actually? Do you think that was like, because Anna, we were in a very environmentalist friendly, did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Environmentalist friendly high school, and they would bombard us. I don't know if it was normal to the extent that they bombarded us with global warming, but you literally felt
Yeah.
that you were going to collapse. Like on your ride home, the car was going to make the earth explode from
I really
the
still
fossil fuels.
remember. I don't know if you remember freaking environmental classes, the Three Gorges Dam in China. It was like the biggest example of, oh my god, they destroyed this place to
Oh
do
my
this dam, and it was the freaking dam that ruined China or whatever. Like, they kept talking about it. They bombarded us. One day I remember we were forced to do our carbon footprint. We were just stupid teenagers. We didn't know shit, and they were like, yeah, the world is dying, too much, the resources, carbon.
I don't think it was normal. I don't think.
We were like generally.
They were like, buy the meatless sandwich and it costs 3 times what the sandwich with meat cost, and we were like, whoa, this sounds like a scam.
What's happening?
Yeah, what's happening? But sorry, Marvin, I interrupted you. I just wanted
No.
to know your take.
You're right.
because you live in France, and for
Yeah,
us it
well-
was like, yeah, overpopulation, and we're like, no, maybe that's why I started thinking I should just go extinct. Like I should
I mean-
not reproduce.
I don't think I'm the best example to talk about this because I was afraid of this since I was a kid. Like, I actually have a question for you guys because I never asked you the question, Anna. But in my lifespan, I don't want to say my age, but I'm 30 right now, so it's like quite a bit like of space, and I do feel like since I was a kid to when I am today, I feel like things have changed rapidly in terms of climate. Because I remember being a kid and in the 90s and still having 4 seasons. In France, we do have spring, summer, autumn, winter. It's very clear cut. It's like early in the year, it's kind of the weather is nice, it's a little sunny, it's a little chilly sometimes, whatever. Summer, hot, but never that hot. Also bear in mind, we don't live in a tropical country, so Europe as a whole, and I know you're going to read me on this because you always talk about it, but homes are not automatically equipped with air conditioning. It's not a thing. Europe is not a thing. So when it's really, really, really hot, then it becomes extremely hard to live with because at night you sweat. It's like very uncomfortable. Because our buildings were used to be built, at least because the new ones kind of control temperatures with isolation, but the old ones all those buildings were made to keep cold outside. That was the main focus, because our winters can go between -5 and -10 sometimes. It's rare, but still. So fighting the cold was like the main goal. So we used stones, we used bricks, we used all that we needed to cement, concrete, whatever. And I feel like between the early 90s to today, the 2020s, I've seen seasons change dramatically. And I kept hearing about global warming, overpopulation, we're using the resources. I remember being a kid and being afraid that as soon as we start dipping into the oceans, we wouldn't have any water anymore, period. And that always scared me. Overpopulation also, like hunger, thirst, specifically the water. Here, it was like a big thing that they put in our brains that eventually we were going to run out of water. And that's something that used to terrify me, because I'm like, I can just turn on the tap in the kitchen and then we have
real water.
What do you mean?
I told you guys have like super treated water.
Yeah, but it's still water.
Yeah.
When you run out of the primary material, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because we actually do have a lot of natural springs where the water comes from, and depending on which region you're coming from, the water is less treated. Because right now you don't want to drink the untreated water from the sewers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but no. Europe,
but if you go near like Switzerland, near the mountains, near the Alps, you get the actual nice water in the tap.
But Europe is known for having bad water.
Yeah, I guess so. But the thing is that the main focus was to get all tap water drinkable. So they use a lot of like minerals and whatnot to make sure that everything's clean. But I know it's not the best water, because everyone that comes from Latin America that takes showers in Europe and ends up having dry hair, dry skin.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's like a different
bald.
water. Becoming bald. It's a different water. It's overtreated. It's true, but it is so we can drink it.
I see.
That is the point, because it's recycled, whatever. But yeah, to finish the point, I remember when I was around 9 or 10, so early 2000s, we had the first heat wave I've ever seen in my entire life, and temperatures went up to 37 degrees Celsius, 38, 39, then 40, 41, 42. And I remember teachers pressing us to drink a lot of water, to make sure that we had our heads like covered with caps, with hats, because it was one of the first times they really hit us. And since then, I cannot even count how many heat waves we've got during the summer. Temperatures go up really, really up, and in the winter they go really low. And the whole calendar of seasons has switched. Like right now we are in July. 3 days ago we had thunderstorms. Today, chilly weather, fine. Tomorrow I think it's gonna be 32, 33, super hot. Every night is different, and we're in the middle of July. And summer is gonna last up until like October at this point. Like summer weather, right? Because summer on paper is like, oh, it lasts until whatever. We're gonna have heat wave days until October. And that's not normal. So global warming was a scare. They did scare us with this, not nearly as much as you guys, because I feel like that was kind of overkill.
But it was our high school.
Like,
it was not
yeah.
like
For us, I don't think we were even allowed to, like, to even pretend that we could come up with some sort of scientific evidence that would contradict it. Like, it was, I remember there was a guy that came and did a presentation on it and why, you know, he showed the other side of global warming, right? Like, maybe, like, if you look at it at a, like, you know, the historical
Wider
data.
scale, yeah.
What's that? Sorry?
At like a wider scale.
Yeah, like a wider scale. You have to factor that in, and it's like we are focusing only on, you know, these, like a very short scale. And I remember like the vice principal, he was like furious about that. Like he was like, no way, like how dare he talk about this. But it's like I think that's one of the first times that I was like thinking, why, you know, people should be allowed to speak whatever they want, and if he's wrong, but at least listen to the guy, right? And yeah, I don't know. You're saying that it was a scare for you. I think it was for everyone also, but what about also overpopulation, for instance?
It's the same thing to us. It was grouped up in the same category of humans are running the planet towards its inevitable death. That was the thing. We're screwing up the climate. We're over-consuming. We're creating non-biodegradable stuff. It was this whole clumped up together subject of we are responsible for what's happening in the world. And the worst part, I think, is that most people feel defenseless when it comes to this, because you're like, oh, I make sure to recycle. I don't put the plastic with the cardboard, and I do this, and that. And right now, even in France, they're implementing a compost in every home because they feel like it's important. And sure, those are smaller scale like actions that you can take on a regular basis. But we all have this idea of me, I'm recycling and I'm making all those efforts, but at the same time, big corporations are still running wild and doing all that they're doing, and everyone's putting the blame on everyone. Then you got Taylor Swift and her private jet.
Taylor Swift.
And
She needs to stop.
I don't even know if this is true, but I saw a video saying that she spends like 100K a week or like every couple of days just to keep up her romance. And I was like, bro, have you seen the memes of her going like to the bathroom and taking
Yeah, with the plane.
With a private jet.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. That's the thing. Like millionaires, billionaires, they are the ones doing ridiculous amounts of waste of carbon and shit. And then apparently, like, they were saying, no, but Taylor is paying like doing something. Taylor is giving money to the government because the government in the US has created this thing where you can pay off your expense of carbon. But I'm like, okay, but what am I gonna do with the money? You know, like, it's not gonna fix what's already been done. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's nonsense. It's them that are ruining the world, and meanwhile us, like, fucking broke ass people, we have to use recyclable glasses in McDonald's.
the paper straw,
That's
bro, it's
so
like
nasty.
The paper
I'm here.
straw,
My
dude.
paper straw like melted into my drink, and there is Taylor Swift.
Dude, they're not
flying
even
over
giving them anymore.
There's Taylor Swift.
Can you imagine?
Like, no.
They're not even giving it to them anymore. They're not
Yeah.
even giving them to us anymore. Like, you remember, we went to McDonald's, and do you guys have this also, the recyclable, like, the plasticware that they give you when you eat at McDonald's? They give you like a glass to drink from that is not a cardboard one. It's not throwable anymore. Do you guys have that in Ecuador or no?
It's like paper-ish. Is that what you
No,
mean?
no, it's like if you go
Okay.
it's like
Oh.
like in a restaurant where, you know, they give you a glass and they give you like a
Yeah.
plate. They do that in McDonald's in Ecuador or not?
I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen that.
Good,
I think it's a
good,
European thing.
good.
Because now when you eat on site at McDonald's, at Burger King, at KFC, whatnot, there's a regulation in place in France that is forcing restaurants to give reusable dishes, whether it's forks, like cutlery, glasses, plates, and then you put them on top of the bin, and they grab them, they wash them, and they give them to a new customer. The problem
You have
is
to wash them like every time.
No, they
wash them and
Oh,
they give them
okay,
to the
okay.
new ones. You just put them on top of the bin where you put your waste, and
Yeah.
then they grab them and rewash it. I had an insider from someone that I know that worked at Burger King and told me, we're not washing them properly. We can't because
Obviously.
we want to, but we don't have enough time. They're forcing us to wash hundreds and hundreds of dishes on closing time, and we don't have time. We genuinely cannot do it. So we high pressure them, we steam them, we do whatever we can, but the thing is not that clean. So she's never gonna get there. But it reminds me of that one time that we went to McDonald's and Anna's glass was kind of dirty.
It was so gross.
So Anna wanted a straw because that she didn't want to put her lips around the
Right.
glass. It makes sense. They refused to give us a straw.
Oh, I think you told
because
me once this story.
It makes waste. And it's like,
And I'm like, dude, Taylor Swift is like flying, like,
she's flying above right now.
yeah, just like, just give me the
And she wait, and she's like, "Oh, look at that poor girl," and drops a plastic straw from the sky. Oh, and you're like, "Thank you, Taylor."
Drops a little coin, being like,
Yeah,
here, to
here.
offset your carbon footprint.
But to be like completely honest, we dived very deep into the whole politics of the treaties, international treaties to solve like climate change and all this. And if you actually look at the logic, how you can buy like one's country right to pollute, it's like messed up. Like it's like, what's the okay? As long as we don't exceed this level of CO2 emitted in certain period, we're fine. But there you get this like disparity where people like Taylor, I don't know if it's true, but I'll use the example, can buy someone else's. Okay, so no one has money, I'll buy the all South America right to pollute. And it's like, bro, what's going on, you know? So so yeah, it's
But you know what I was listening to today, because YouTube has decided to recommend me really strange people, because I feel like every couple of weeks YouTube restarts its algorithm and offers me new content that I've never seen before. I've had the president of El Salvador recommend it to me.
Oh, yeah. Have you
a
seen?
lot lately, and I keep seeing things of him telling like an interviewer that he put his faith into God for the election, whatnot. Like he's a very religious man.
Do you actually know who the interviewer? I know what you're talking about. Do you know who the interviewer was?
It's Jordan Peterson, wasn't it?
No. Tucker Carlson.
Because I've seen him talk to him. Ah, okay.
No, Tucker. But
I've
I'll ask you a
seen
question
video
later
today.
about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just seen a video of what is he called? Bukele?
Nayib Bukele.
Yeah. Of him talking about how money isn't real today. Like I saw a video this morning explaining how the taxes work, and he was like, you know what, the problem is that taxes money doesn't go to the government, it funds. Pretty much he explained that the whole system was in a circle, that tax money pays for tax bonds are used to determine the value of a country, but then that money doesn't go anywhere, and to create those tax bonds you have to print money, and then it goes all the way back. And he's like, if countries are allowed to print money, then why is nobody in possession of any money?
No,
how does that make any sense?
I know exactly the video you're talking about. I was actually thinking of sharing it with you because of our conversation about inflation. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And he's
because
saying...
I disagree with a lot of what he's saying overall, as like his social, more like he's a very extremist man. Like in terms of criminality, I feel like he's a little extreme. Social wise, like with a lot of like the abortions and human rights, LGBT rights and whatnot. There's a lot of things that are problematic with him, and I don't support him as a politician. However, economically, what he's saying makes complete sense. Yes. Because we all know, we had this conversation a couple episodes ago about inflation, like you were mentioning. Money is not real, and you can make whatever you want with money. That value is random. It's attributed to money, and then suddenly nobody has money anymore on a system that is meant for everyone to have money. How does it make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
The exact question I think he asks, or not the exact, but the wording he might have used is something like, if governments, like he's asking, like, why do governments, why do they have to collect taxes? And he's saying, if we have the ability to print unlimited amount of money, and even if they cannot print money, this is like an additional point, they can infinitely borrow from another country. It's like this weird game, like, okay, I don't have any, I cannot pollute more, I'll buy your carbon footprint, kind of, like, basically.
It's monopoly.
Exactly, it's monopoly. So he's asking, why do we have to collect taxes? And he uses some wording like, it's because we have to uphold the notion or make you think that it's the citizens' money who is funding the government, but you're not funding us ever.
Not at all. I know.
And that's why that video, I think, makes sense, and it's like because he's not the only one. There are people in European councils that every once in a while talk about the central bank policy and how money is created, but generally they are shut down for some reason. So on that front, I do think he makes sense.
He is, but you know what? The crazy thing here, I don't know if it's the same in Ecuador, and I would like to get your opinion on this, but Also, to go back to, I just want the answer of, did you guys see any shift in the weather and the seasons in Ecuador since you guys were born? I just wanted to know that earlier. We never got to it.
I don't think I never realized because we only have 2 seasons.
Yeah, that's fair. That's what I was assuming.
But I do know that it has changed because I remember my grandma used to say something that is like, April, lots of water. It was like a known thing that it would like rain a lot, and I know that
We also have an expression about April.
it stopped raining as much. However, I do remember the seasons being very well marked in Ecuador. Like I remembered, based on the school year, there was a moment where it was clear as day that the season had changed. And I personally, from my experience, I don't think it changed that much. I don't know if right now it has changed, but personally.
I agree with Anna. Like, we don't have the 4 seasons, and temperature-wise, we are like the equator. I think never has drastic changes. It's like very
Fair enough.
Keeps around the same temperature all year round. The only difference is like, okay, like we have like the rainy season or something like that, but yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
But to go back to the money subject, tell me, Miguel, if it's the same, because I know that Anna didn't have that experience. When we get our paychecks every month, we get a document that details every single little line that is like, oh, this amount is taken for this amount is taken for this. Right now in France, we have the taxes taken from the source. So instead of paying a huge amount of money per year, you get a little percentage taken off your salary that pays for your taxes. But it's not the only thing that is taken off your paycheck. When I look at my paycheck that is like this big, I have 20 to 25 lines that I do not understand because I'm not an accountant. I don't know what's being taken off. All that I see, if I look at it from a very simplistic way, is that the first amount that is like, we call it brut, which is like the raw amount, the original amount, then all of this is subtracted, and then I get the net worth, the annual net. And I swear to God that there is between 600 and 700 euros taken off in the process for social security, for tax money.
But wait, are you talking about like in a year they would take that amount, or in a month they would take that amount?
No, in a month.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In a month. So the thing is that we are blind to this because when they announce your salary, they give you your net. They're like, okay, so that's the amount that you're getting every month.
Yes.
So you're like, okay, sure, that's my salary. Makes sense. I can live based off of that amount. But then when you go all the way up, I don't know what those charges are for. Some of them I can recognize because they write everything. They have to. It's like the legal way. But I don't know what they mean. And I don't know how come they can take away so much. And then the government tells me it's to pay for retirement, it's to pay for social security, it's to pay for one. And I do understand for the most part, but all that money that is taken off my salary my whole life, I'm not going to get it. Because it funds other people's retirement and they fund mine, and it's a whole
supposedly. And that's a big topic that you study in economics, and it's one of the topics that are like, I feel like it's indoctrination. When I was reading this in my economics classes, like they mess up your mind in a way that you think this is like the only solution. Like you have to fund the people in foster care. Foster care is another thing.
You have to fund the babies.
Fund the orphans.
No, sorry. You have to fund what are the homes called? Like the retirement people.
Retirement homes?
Retirement homes, yeah. You have to fund them. And I was like having a panic attack. No, it's on me. I have to, pay for their bills. That's how they present it. But keep going. Sorry, Marvin.
But it's blurry. Nobody knows where that money's coming from. And it's coming to. Nobody knows where that money's coming to because, again, easily 600 euros monthly taken off the base amount to the final amount. And I'm like, I'll never know where that money comes from. And I'm pretty sure someone who is very knowledgeable in politics and economy can tell me in proper terms, okay, this money is allocated to this money is allocated to that. The problem is that the vast majority of the population has no idea why that money is being taken, because they present you as like, here's where you're getting paid, period. I don't even read my paycheck anymore, because the amount changes slightly every month. I still don't know why. I work the same hours, I work the same job, but still I'm gonna have a $10 difference here and there that is just completely random. And I remember in my previous job when I was working retail, once I felt like there was something wrong with my paycheck, so I went to accounting and I was like, can you look it over, because I feel like there was something wrong. And they told me, oh yeah, we made a mistake, and there was like $100 missing. And I'm like, how many times has there been money missing from my, and I'll never know. And most people will never know. They can embezzle as much as they want. Can you imagine a big company, you take $20 away from everyone? That racks up really easily.
Bro, I have worked in finance. That's basically my field, and
Okay.
I have unlimited stories about like what you just brought up, and the whole system, like having worked like in also in Canada, and thinking, oh, you know, everything will be better. That's what they make you think there in this developed country, and seeing how it's the same, and now hearing from you that you have had the same experience. It's crazy because, you know, companies actually, as you're saying, many people never have that thought, you know, oh, how many times could they have like taken money from my account or something like that. And it happens to an extent that is crazy, you know, and they honestly don't care about like the people. But sorry, what's that?
No, they don't care about people. The fact that even your money at the bank is technically not your money, that is an awful realization, that if ever the bank goes bankrupt, they can pick on customers' accounts, because this is in your contract. Whenever you open a bank account, there's a clause that does say that the money, you're basically, it's like a loan system from what I'm understanding.
Yes.
That you're giving the money to the bank for like safekeeping, but the money technically belongs to them, and they loan you the money back, and you're still paying them fees to get your account running. It's a crazy system,
It's
and
the biggest scam ever.
none of them has transparency. That's the thing that bothers me, is that none of us is aware of whatever's happening. And whenever a bank crashes, and I remember it happening in France once, a bank crashed. It was state of emergency. Oh my god, a huge bank is crashing. And what happened? The government paid for it, picked it up, and the bank was like as if nothing happened.
Yes. And actually, I don't know if you wanted to ask a more specific question, or can I comment on what you just said generally?
No, I did want to ask you but you did answer the question, if the paychecks work the same, as in there is like 100 different lines that none of them mean anything, and that no one is asking questions at all. But I feel like it's a pretty universal system.
I do think that, and I would say that is a big, I don't know if bigger than in France, but in Canada, like taxes are wild, like because also the population is, you know, declining, they tax you crazily. And that was one of the things that shocked me, and I was like, okay, long term, even if you're making more than 100k per year, let's say, in a high paying job, which is a crazy amount of money, like long term in taxes, like even like if you were to have a family or something, it's not sustainable, you know. It could be, but in a way that, because of like the rising cost of rent, groceries, and everything, it's not sustainable, right? It's like money loses its value. And for me, I remember almost a third, if not more, of my paycheck I didn't see every month. Like, let's say 3k, you know, you would get like 2k, like something like that, and then the rest.
So it's all the same. We're in the same situation.
Yes. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I don't know if you heard the same thing in economics classes, but my teachers always told me that the capitalistic system is basically inherently made to crash eventually, because you cannot always keep on the rise. It's not possible. The rich accumulate wealth, the poor decline in quality of life, and this whole race of whoever's gonna be the richest the quickest is meant to die eventually, because if you keep digging like the difference between the richest and the poorest person, if you keep making that fucking the gap, exactly, if you keep digging that gap and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, then eventually you only have the rich, and that's it. You'll only have the rich, and then what happens when everyone is rich? Nothing, because the lower classes that were creating the resource are gone. And a lot of dystopian novels and movies and piece of fictions are actually mentioning this, of how the world is ruled by this high society of rich people, which is kind of the case right now, but they push that concept to like all the way. And I find it insane that the whole controlling the masses and whatnot is happening without getting into conspiracy theories. It is happening on a much lower scale, obviously. Like, they're not brainwashing and whatnot, but they are, with the way they talk, the way they present things, and the fact that we're all nodding our heads, being like, oh, third of my paycheck gone? Okay, I guess that's how it is. And nobody's asking the questions, nobody's fighting the system, nobody's doing anything. And at the same time, lots of people are almost rooting for the system to keep going, when we can barely afford rent, we can barely afford food, we don't have... So housing, water, food, 3 things that should be human rights. Like, truly, what would be the global consequence of giving everyone enough money to live? You want to keep the capitalist system? Sure. Allow people the minimum, what they call minimum wage, but a minimum livable income.
I think
wouldn't that benefit everyone?
I think that has been discussed by proposed by some people as universal something income, what's it called? Something like universal income, that it would be distributed, to like solve poverty. But
you want to know the craziest thing? They tried to offer it in France. Someone from the left,
universal basic income, I think it's the term.
Yeah,
universal basic income.
They decided to run for president and said, that is my main measure, universal livable income. And you know what happened? First of all, every single other politician started mentioning that is like a gateway to laziness, that people are not going to work anymore, that is going to collapse society and whatnot. So everyone turned their back on him. Then eventually he had to go back on his own measure and kind of tweak it a little bit to make it more acceptable for the public. But even the general audience, the general voters, most of them were saying the exact same thing. It is a gateway for people not to work. And I'm like, in what world would people not want to get more wealth? Because you really think that the people who are not working right now would work any more or less if the system changed? No. They already don't have a livable income and they're still not working. So what would be the difference? And I've seen even people from my family I'm fully for universal income, but people from my family were like, oh, so you want to live and depend on the government? And I'm like, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Who is the government working for? Who is the government supposed to work for? Not for themselves. They're supposed to work for the people. Because why would we elect someone if it's not to work for us? But the government is running itself independently from the people. And they decide things like I'm not going to say it's like a monarchy, but pretty much. They're like, here and we're here. And it's like, it is what it is. Retirement age going up. And it's like, but we don't want that. Well, too bad for you. It's already done. Taxes raised, rents raised. When do we have a choice, really?
The thing is that people are brainwashed. Like, I've been watching like a dude, like, and there is a thing called, I don't know how you call it in English, but in Spanish it's like meritocracy. Like,
meritocracy.
Well, yeah, okay. So it's like people think that that's a thing. Like, I remember, I remember being in the university that I was studying engineering in Ecuador.
Yes,
And
bro.
please, my friends who were like, I'm sorry, they were like middle to low class, right? Like, economically speaking.
Yes.
And they were telling me, yeah, but like, I don't like the way the country is being run right now, because I'm pretty sure that if I work hard and earn my money, I'm gonna become high class and stuff. And I'm like, bro, that's never gonna happen.
The thought
It's
that
never gonna happen. You're married, you can work your ass off. It's never gonna happen.
I think it takes 10 generations on average to accumulate the wealth of the richest people right now, with the current economical measures. But the idea that everyone starts off with the same chances is a fallacy.
Or that they think that they're gonna reach it, and I'm like, dude, you're never gonna be part
No.
of the people that are running
But
the
that's
country.
the thing.
Never.
When
You're
you-
never gonna meddle with them.
The context in which you're born and your economical situation, it's obvious that if you're born upper class, you're gonna have way more chances in life. And
And
the
you're
people,
gonna stay upper class forever, even if you don't have money.
and exactly that's
Not
my problem.
forever
Like,
though. I would say not forever, because, bro, I have seen people that they misspend, if that makes sense, because they thought they would be
Yeah, you can lose everything.
on the hill of wealth, forever.
No, yeah, they
and
can.
they
can,
bankrupt their companies. Like, I have seen that, so
they can, but that doesn't remove the status that they have. You see what I mean?
that is true in a sense.
And
that is
they
true.
remain in that, and they never go like downhill, because the other people are gonna help them, like the ones that are like in their own circle.
Exactly,
Oh,
they have
okay,
a
yeah,
safety
that
net
makes sense.
of-
Exactly, they never go down, and it will never happen.
you never truly lose everything. I agree.
And my friend was telling me, and I was like, bro, because we were like in the socialist time of my country, right? That no one likes, but I did. And
Anna, bro,
and I'm like,
Anna would have the craziest conversations with his dad, and I was like, bro, I actually, she would be in a mental state that I only saw her when she would be speaking about politics with her dad. It was scary.
with my dad, because my dad is also
Bro,
You
it was
entered the avatar state.
it was scary, and his dad was from the military. What did you say? Sorry.
That Anna entered the avatar
Bro,
state.
exactly. She was like possessed. I'm like, bro, who is she? Like, should I get out of the car right now? And she was like, her
But
dad
was
would
your
say,
dad on your side?
yeah, because my dad is the one who taught me
Okay.
this way of thinking. And the thing is that I was with my friends, and I'm like, you do realize that right now we're studying for free in one of the best, if not the best, engineering schools of the fucking country. You have to pay nothing. You're here. You are getting an education to hopefully reach your goals that you want to reach. And you're telling me that you hate the government right now that gave you this, because you want the government that basically boosts on the fact that they are the right and that they are the powerful and rich, and that you want to be part of them. Are you fucking kidding me?
And you'll never be part of them, because my own brother is mentioning this, and he's very into the meritocracy, and I'm telling him, but what if you're born with parents who are illiterate? That does happen a lot, in fact. Let's say that your parents are immigrants and they never learned the language or something. It's difficult for them. You have a handicap. You're born, you're trying to do homework, ask your parents, they cannot help you. You're on your own. Really early on, you have to work to earn income within your own house, because there's not enough money. So you have to pay rent, so you don't have the same luxury as everyone else. You don't have the same quality of life at all. And my brother said things like, if you want to give yourself the means, you can do it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Just because because we were raised middle class, that he has a nice situation right now, and he made himself. And I really respect him for that, because I'm like, sure, you did all of this when his grades were plunging. He got put into private school for a couple of years because like he was the only one out of me and my siblings, but it did help him. It gave him discipline and whatnot. And as much as we were born in the same sort of situation, we were in the same class, he has a better situation than me right now, and he's a little bit older, but he still had a better situation because he chose a different field and whatnot. but not everyone can be doctors, not everyone can be lawyers, not everyone can be. There's a lot of different circumstances and details that can really derail your life.
I mean, truly, it's a matter of luck, because you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer. It's just like in my country, it's like if you're not someone's daughter, cousin, if you don't have a friend, you're never gonna make it.
The system is made so you will stay in your class. That's what it's made for.
Exactly.
The reason why capitalism exists is so the rich can become richer and the poor can become poorer. And if you're middle class, you're the best target for the government to tax you, because they know that you're gonna keep on asking. People middle class will fight for meritocracy because they've been brainwashed into believing that they will one day become rich. That is not the case. That is never gonna happen unless you're extremely lucky, or
they're the ones who defend the rich the most, and I'm like, bro, you're the ones that they're getting abused the most.
you're defending your enemy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about killing the rich, but it is.
Honestly,
It's like, I respect people who made themselves, and I do respect them.
And they do
I'm like-
exist though, like
And they exist. They
I don't know
absolutely
if
they exist.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's some people that, bro, you hear like crazy stories, like documentaries. People,
Yeah.
they at some point did something extraordinary to actually like reach a certain level of wealth and start a company or something. I do think that's possible, but
it's rare.
But it's a vast
It's-
minority.
it's
you know?
rare.
Yeah, it's super rare.
I do agree, but there's people that actually have like crazy stories, and they like go through like a extreme psychological battle and like question everything and work like crazy hours and are able to do it. So, but I do agree. I do think like there's like a lot of probably people are gonna watch this, our two viewers, and be like have their own opinions.
Dirty communists.
Have their own opinions, but I do think there's like a lot of indoctrination surrounding
There is.
politics, money. Like, no one understands anything really. Like, even if you read like a book about economics, like you're like, what? And I do understand like Anna's sides from our country. Like, I remember her dad
Yeah.
pointing out some very true things about like the reality here. I wouldn't say, I don't know if you would 100, like, I don't know, because we were teenagers, if by now your mindset has changed a little bit
Not at
with
all.
with regards to our country, Anna. But there are certain things like people, like the government is a joke here, honestly. And I wouldn't even say only here, I would actually say it
Everyone.
there's
Yeah.
some discussion about the intrinsic nature of having a government. That's what I mean, and that's where I maybe would differentiate myself from like other people. Like, I'm not really into partisanship. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, when I vote, is honestly just, if you don't, you have to pay like a penalty thing, so that's why I have to go. But like I'm not really like, oh, you know, this candidate or that candidate. I just need my certificate. So you just have to go and to get the certificate. But it is crazy that people go through life and they never question. And I have had that with some relatives that are like older generations, and we have discussed this, and they might have lived their whole life with a very skewed vision of money and wealth. And there's people in the middle class, as you were pointing out, that just to pretend they have money, they would be buried in debt. You know, have you seen that? Just so that they can get that car, that house. And we live in this illusion, basically. And
It's all
you
about
think
the image.
exactly of upholding this image. And if you really dig deep into this hole, you are going to realize that it's more about human nature. I'm just remembering like, this is toward the end of season 4 in Attack on Titan, Levi is having a discussion with the blonde girl. Do you remember? Yelena. And before they like take the the ship, because before the ship takes off to find the plane where they would fight Eren or whatever, and they are talking about, when will this end? Like, is it possible that some sort of ruler, like government or agreement between humans, ends just this fighting and this chaos? And I don't know who says this, but maybe it's Levi. He's like, asking that is like asking how would you end the nature of human beings, and my point is, all of this confusion, all of this disappointment in the way we live as humans is basically kind of the eternal internal battle that we have by trying to please people we don't like, I'm gonna get so much debt just so that I can live a life that is not real. And that happens, among us and among the richest. And it's like capitalism, communism, all of these things. For me, when I read them, like when I was in my economics classes, I realized I didn't know anything because I felt that I was being indoctrinated. And when you read this and you actually feel responsible for, like, if that money doesn't get deducted from my paycheck, like, these people are going to no one will pay for their pension, right? And that's another topic, like the whole pension system.
I know
that's the biggest scam here in Ecuador. Like, the directors of the pension fund, like the pension fund here, always have to flee the country because they, and I'm not even kidding, like every director at some point has to flee the country because they use the fund, they embezzlement. They embezzle the funds in some other countries, and you're like, bro, if they have been doing this like forever, how have these people been living? And it's because, can you imagine? Just imagine that you convince everyone that you need to put this money, like take money from everyone and put them in this like trust fund or this pension fund. What do you think people are going to do with that? Do you think
Exactly.
we are like the best-hearted people, bro? Like, the institution that oversees that, the pension fund here, is probably the most corrupt agency in the country, and
it's a countrywide scam. It's like selling snake oil and being like, oh, if you invest in this, your life is gonna be better, and then suddenly nothing changes, and they're like, whoops, the money's gone.
yeah. And the way I thought about this when I was thinking about extinction when I was a teenager, I thought,
as you do,
as people do, I was thinking like what if no one would get paid, but like, who would be the firefighters? Like, have you thought about that? Like, how would we arrange society if no one would do this like for money, right? And then you start thinking, like, money of course is not real, right? We can argue about that, but what is real is the actions you take, like, right, the computer, the camera that we're recording this, that's real. Like, that has real value proposition because we are doing something with it. But how would that camera get made, and if you really think about how things get made at the start point, then you can maybe think about, like, what is real and what isn't real. But if your starting point is, for that to get made, someone needs to get paid, and capitalism or communism and all of this, it's like you already are indoctrinated, like, you cannot even...
The problem is changing the system deeply, inherently, from a capitalistic system to something else will require enormous sacrifices. Because, like you were saying, today all the stuff that we use, this computer, this microphone that we're using right now, the earphones and everything, they're built for the most part by sweatshop workers, who are people who are abused and abused and abused. And we collectively turn a blind eye to this because it's more convenient for us not to think about it. We know, but at the same time, it's like, it is what it is. The world runs that way. So if you give everyone a livable income, then suddenly, would those people exist anymore? Probably not. Then who's going to build those things?
Right. That's an excellent point that you bring up.
Then way less things are going to be built, but maybe you can train people under decent working conditions to not over-create, but to regulate that. So instead of buying 3 iPhones, you're only going to get 1. And that will be fine. It's just treating workers properly, but at the same time, all those...
But the problem is the overconsumption. They
It
need
is.
to have these workers because of the stupid overconsumption, the ridiculousness that capitalism brings. It's just like those videos of the haul I got from Temu, the haul I got from Wish, and it's like, and every single time there's new ones, and now with TikTok there's even more. You see something trending and you wanna get it, you wanna try it. You are like, oh my god, I see this trending thing, and it's like all of this is the reason why that exists, and it's ridiculous. Like, and like you said, Apple is like one of the main examples. It's like iPhone 11, 12, 13, 14, they basically do the same, but just because it has a new number, people are gonna buy, and it's like,
yeah, we live in an over-consuming society, 1000%.
That's the freaking problem.
Even the platforms, like where you see these ads, like social media, like they basically control our minds. You know, it's really a very dystopian reality that we live in. And people, you know, the comments, people would argue about something that is not even real. So it's like, I do feel that we live in like dystopian times, and I
But we do, like, I saw like a few months ago that there was like this obsession in the US about something called Stanley Cups or whatever, that people were running to Target to get it. People were like, like pushing each other. And I'm like, for a stupid cup that looks so ugly, like, why? And everyone wanted to have it, and there were like 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds going crazy, their parents, and I'm like, for this?
But look at the way society is made today. I know we're in a bad position to talk about this because we're literally uploading this onto YouTube, but look at YouTubers the way they used to be paid. Like, think about it for a second and realize it's not just YouTube, but that's a pretty good example because TV channels work the same, radio works the same, media works the same. You will accept payment from an ad company, not an ad company, from a company that will tell you, oh, your thing has an audience, I want to be on it. And you're like, okay, so I will pay you XYZ amount of money for you to broadcast my ad to give me more popularity, so it might end up becoming a sale. And you realize those things that are like, so you're paying me for the intent, for the possible wish that maybe I'm gonna make a sale with my product. But the money that you were paid is for virtual currency, popularity. So you're just trying to be put on the map by paying someone. And I'm just thinking how crazy unstable this system is, because it's monopoly. It's not real. It's like, I know you have to extend your possible audience and you're trying to target more people, but you're going to a media that you pay, and that creates a whole economical system just to be put on the map somewhere that maybe potentially someone that is listening will be like, oh, that's a nice product, I'm gonna go buy it. And that is crazy to me. But I guess the thing that I wanted to, maybe that the last question that I wanted to end up on with all of this is, would you, with the system that we have right now, which is a meritocracy, for the off chance of 0. whatever percent that one day you might become rich, would you give away the keys to the kingdom to a system that is oppressing for most people? Because the rich 1%, they're 1%. But would you give the full power to a system that is inherently against you, in the hopes that maybe you're gonna become like the rich? I think that's the question that I want to leave you guys on, and I would like you to have your opinions.
You mean like the meritocracy?
Meritocracy and capitalism, because they work hand in hand.
Anna.
It's stupid as hell.
Because meritocracy is a tool by capitalism.
Yeah, it's fake. It's a fantasy.
It's made by capitalism to make you believe that the system works.
Yeah.
Anna.
And
Sorry. Go ahead, Marvin.
no, I just want your opinions on that.
I was
go
going
ahead
to.
again.
I was going to say, Anna. I feel that you should give your take, and a good one, because you have barely spoken today. So, I just wanted to say
True.
that. Yeah. So Marvin and I have been going back and forth, and you mentioned about the meritocracy thing, but like I don't know a lot of what you think, so I don't want to end this conversation
It's
without
patriarchy. That's what happened today.
we just confirmed that the patriarchy is real.
We've been mansplaining economy to Anna this whole time.
Bro,
This
this is so ironic. We would be, capitalism, communism, everything is wrong, and we are like the best
like
example
men.
of patriarchy. Anna, please don't make us look bad. So no,
Bring a
I
feminine
honestly want
touch
to know.
this.
What's that?
No. It's just what are my thoughts on meritocracy and like
And
capitalism
whether, and also whether, because you didn't answer.
and also weather.
No. Whether, like, whether, I mean, whether your mindset have changed since you were, because it might not have changed because it's nothing changes that much in our country, but whether you would say you completely agree with the takes from when we were teenager and like your conversations with, university students, like, your dad's opinions, all that. Like if you found out something else now that you live in France, just if
Like,
that has
where's your
evolved,
mind at with all this?
I wanted to know that.
Well, I would
But first
say
answer
that-
Marvin's though, yeah, if you want.
Okay, when it comes to meritocracy and capitalism, I think it's the biggest bullshit on earth. It's
I
stupid
felt
as
that
hell.
word. Word.
Ah,
It's fucking fantasy. It's fake because it's always based on the middle class people, like you said.
so I'm never gonna become rich.
No. We're never gonna be rich. It's a matter of luck. It's a matter of fucking luck, and it's true, and it's the hopes and it's just like in the Hunger Games, like the fucking whatever his name, Snow, whatever his name is. He said you need to give them this much of hope so that they don't uprise and they want to throw
That's
you off.
meritocracy. That's
That's the little bit of hope that you give to the middle class, because the middle class is the one holding the country.
That's
And you
deep,
give them
bro.
this little bit of hope, and you're like, oh, if you do a little bit more, you might grow in the company and you're gonna become part of the it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. You're never gonna become someone important in the company. You're never
God
gonna earn
damn
more
it.
money. It's that
Unless
thing. It's
someone
the dangling thing.
Unless someone can put you there, because
Exactly.
Exactly. If you know someone, like, of course,
If
like
you
that.
became buddy with the right person,
yeah.
then, but that's the thing. The whole system is biased. It's not out of merit.
It's
out of
nepotism.
it's the biggest snakes go up to the biggest ladders because they know how to slither their way in companies.
Bro, that saying just blew my mind. where did you get that phrase from?
I just made it up.
Bro, like, that was so deep. I felt it in my blood. Like, I was like, are we talking about Genesis right now? Like the Bible? Like, what is going on? No, that's deep.
This is true. Look, even in the Bible, look who convinced Eve to bite the apple.
Bro, like
I know.
am I in a literature class right now? Like, wow.
Like, I know it's supposed to be an image of sin and evil, but look at what's and I'll give the word back to Anna in a second. I'll be done mansplaining in like 30 seconds. But snakes in the grass, right? The expression, snakes are in the grass, snakes in the grass. I have been to so many companies by now that I can immediately spot who the snake is, because look at take any company in the world, whether it's local, bigger scale, whatever scale. Look at management and you'll understand what the problem is in a company. Because if you have 10 managers, a good percentage of them will have been put there not out of their work, but for the reason that they were well liked. And I saw a study recently that said why the hardworking people are never promoted, and it's simply for the reason that hardworking, you cannot be, that was a theory, you cannot be nice and hardworking. You have to pick a lane, because if you're both, they're just gonna give you more work. If you're nice and not hardworking, they're just gonna keep you and be like, he's good where he is, he doesn't have ambition, he can stay where he is. But if you're hardworking and mean, then you have more chances, because your work is for yourself. You're not thinking about other people, and they will put you in a position where they need you to be. But you cannot have everything. Basically, you cannot be a decent person and evolve in a capitalistic system. That's not how it works. You need to be a shark. You need to figure out your own opportunities, and you need to make the right friends for them to place you, because politics are about spheres, entourage. It's about or surrounding yourself with the right people, because here in France at least, but I think it's the same case in everything in the world, like the Masons in the US, for example, the presidents all come out of them pretty much. But in France, political spheres come out of one specific school. They know one specific kind of people, and it's like, if you're in there, and you're good for the rest of your life. If you're not, you can never get into that bubble, because they make sure you can never be into that bubble.
But it's just like in our high school. If you went to our high school and you somehow became friends with the kids of the powerful people, your life has been...
all your doors have been open.
The doors have been open. That's why there's many parents who would put their kids in our school, and they were like, you need to become friends with these people.
Makes sense.
Doesn't mean that it necessarily happened.
You're placing them in the proper way to have it's networking. It's all about networking.
It's networking, putting you at age 2 in the hopes of you becoming friends with someone that's gonna make your family like...
But that's what they don't tell you. That's what the system doesn't tell you. They're telling you, the more you work, the more you're gonna get. Not true. Diplomas today, worthless. Work experience, that's where it's at. But they're never gonna tell you that that's where it's at. And even then, if you have all the experience in the world, if someone knows someone else, they're gonna be placed in that position instead of you. Because it's all about being friends with the right people. And that's why meritocracy is the biggest scam ever.
Yep. Meritocracy is the biggest scam.
And
how about Mia's question about has your mindset evolved since you were a teenager?
I don't think it's changed.
And then
granted,
the answer, but
granted, I'm not as extremist as I used to be, but at the same time, I was an edgy teenager, so it's like, okay.
Yeah, we all were.
But since
Nietzsche,
the talks with my...
she was like, you know.
Since the talks with my dad, that it's like the person who indoctrinated me to be this way, honestly.
The avatar state, yeah.
The avatar state, like, no, I still keep my same stance. It's like, it's similar to this. It's like, I agree with Marvin with the idea of not even a universal income. It's like everyone should have a house, internet, water, food, clothes, period. I don't care. Everyone.
The essentials.
And I'm not talking
housing,
about
culture, and food.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about Gucci clothes or anything. I'm talking about like you give everyone the same basis. Literally the same fucking basis. Like, of course, the rich are gonna be born rich, but if someone is poor, they're not gonna be born under a fucking bridge. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing is to even the field however possible it is.
The way criminality would go down.
Criminality would go down. And the laziness thing is stupid, because sure, there are lazy people, obviously, but there are lazy people right now.
They already exist.
That are taking advantage of the government already. It's gonna be the same people. And it's like, oh, they wanna stay in their little house with everything paid by the government. Okay, they can. But there's gonna be people who want more, who don't want to stay in the little house, that are gonna work, and they don't have to worry about what they have to eat for the day, and they can focus on growing their own thing, you know.
Yeah.
And that I think would help people advance in society. But it's not convenient, because the rich don't want you to advance. They want to stay rich, and they want you to stay their slave.
They make you work out of threats, because the fear of not making rent, the fear of not paying bills, the fear of being homeless, is what pushes society forward. It goes back to
the fucking Hunger Games. You have to control them with fear and hope. You have them on your hand with fear, because you starve them, you remove everything from them, and then you dangle the little hope a little bit, being like, but everything is bad, but maybe you could get the golden apple now, please. It's literally the fucking Hunger Games. Like everything reduces to what Snow said in that. I don't even remember what it was, but
And they incite you to become a worse version of yourself. Because if you really want to evolve in the corporate world, there's so many people right now that go off the grid nowadays. They just leave society fully because they don't recognize themselves anymore. The amount of people that I've seen, and I know it works in every capital in the world, I've had talks with many people who went to Paris to pursue their careers, and they were like, I worked in this agency for a long time, worked in this company, and I couldn't anymore. After 5, 6, 7 years, I went back to my hometown in the countryside because I could not live that life anymore. It's too stressful, it's too expensive, everyone wants you to be a certain version of yourself, and you're not yourself anymore. So it's a nightmare. It's like the Devil Wears Prada. It's the same thing. The way you change,
you have to
and you
change
don't even
yourself.
realize that you've changed up until it's too far, and you're like, God, I don't recognize myself anymore.
But even like this might sound kind of ridiculous because it's like in a lower scale. But when I was in school, you know, like doing my movie for my graduation or whatever, we were treated like a studio, right? Like if we were actually making movies for real, you know, it was not school anymore. It was not classes. It was like working in a studio. And I felt myself dying for an entire year because I was surrounded by the most nonsensical things. The most, you know, that some people had more power, like some students had more power and the school was not gonna touch them. You were fucked. I was fucked because I was international, and because my parents are not here to defend me and baby me, the school attacked me more than the other people. And I was like, bro, I'm just here doing my work, and they were like attacking because they were like, oh, she can take it, you know, like she whatever, she's the, you know, the one that we're gonna bring down the most. And it's like it's insane because I know that this is something that reflects on companies too. It's like if you're the hardworking one that actually wants to do a good job about something, and you're not someone's little daughter or someone's little something, you're gonna get scrutinized, you're gonna get mistreated, you're gonna get a lot of work, you're gonna be the one that everyone's gonna question, or they're simply gonna ignore your petitions, your whatever. And it drove me insane.
But
it drove me insane.
There's a double problem in the corporate world because in your case, when you're studying, you're doing it for yourself, kind of. So it's like you fail, you succeed, that's on you.
Yeah.
The problem with the corporate world is that if you're a hardworking, decent person, they know they're gonna make you think that you're replaceable. They're gonna be like, the day you leave, we can replace you, which inherently is true. However, they will do anything they can to keep you because they know you're doing a good job, but they'll always kind of dangle a carrot in front of you, being like, maybe a promotion, maybe a raise, maybe this, maybe that. Like literally right now in my job, I've made myself opportunities to be able to evolve a little bit, and I've gotten some of that, but I also know that I don't truly have long-term perspectives, simply for the reason that I can read people and I know that they want me here at this position because they know I do it well. I want more for myself. I have more ambition than that. But they see me doing a good job and being kind of not complacent, but I'm kind of going with the flow, and I'm not fighting too much because I'm like, what's the point? Truly, what's the point? But they see this and they're like, oh, he's a good element. Let's try not to get rid of him. So we're going to give him like little crumbs to keep him around. They even know, I've heard from upper management that if they take me away, if they take more away from me because they've taken some of the things away from me because the service is reforming, they said if we take more from him, he's gonna leave. So we need to still give him things. So I know it's clear as day. It's not even like a secret. They've told me they know I'm gonna leave if they take things away from me. So you could either take it as a side of respect, being like, okay, we don't want to take too much away from you because we value you. But I think it's the other one where it's like we need to give him enough to keep him hoping, but we're not truly gonna make him evolve. I did mention that I wanted to go up rank, and I've heard, oh my god, I didn't know, that's so cool, like, okay, if an opportunity arises, I'm gonna tell you. Never heard from them. It's been over a year.
and they like talk to you like you're a little baby. Oh, that idea crossed your mind? Like, are you capable of producing those thoughts? Like,
Exactly.
really? And it's such
The
a
moment
weird.
they figure out that you're smart, you become a threat. That's also the problem.
Yes, and it's such a weird like position to be in, bro. Honestly, like corporations and companies make me sick to my core. And I even remember in Canada, and this is my experience. I don't know if you would disagree, but I feel that people specifically that deal with money, like investments and money handling, is even worse, like, and might be the worst of them all. Like, have you seen people in the stock exchanges, like the New York Stock Exchange? They are on cocaine, like, maybe you'll bleep that word, all day
They're insane.
long.
They're insane.
They are high all the time. They're gambling because that's another side of the story we didn't touch, that the whole system is really a gambling system, like the stock market, like the value, the exchange rate between the
It's the
US,
stupidest thing in the world.
French.
Yeah.
Bro, the fact that the exchange rate can fluctuate like 100 times per millisecond, do you think that's real? Like what are we talking about, right? So we didn't
And
get
who
into
determines those values?
It's-
Again.
Exactly.
It's fake.
and they make you think, and that this is an example that might illustrate this. They tell you in finance or business school, yes, like to value the stock, you have, what's it called, like fundamental analysis. I don't remember the term, but like you come up with this weird math that is not even like engineering math or like real math, and but then some magazine or newspaper post a story about the company that might be fake, and the stock value plummets, right? And then you're like,
Yeah.
wait, but didn't we value this based on math? And then you're like, it's everything like hearsay, basically, and
Yeah.
that it's pure gambling. But my
It's
point
garbage. All of it.
it is completely. And my point with that is, I remember I was working back in the day in Canada, in this place that they basically dealt with money, like big amount of money, big amounts of money. And when you started, they told you the expectation is that you get fired, basically, like we'll welcome you, we'll see how long you can survive, but expect. And I had a friend from university that he already knew he wanted to be in this environment of investing and with everything that entailed. And I reached out to him and told him, hey, are these things normal? Like, I have been ghosted by my manager for like a week, then 2 weeks. And he told me, oh yeah, that's completely normal. Like we were working remotely, but he told me when we were in the office, they would fire people on the spot in front of everyone, like yelling at them. And
Jesus Christ.
and I don't know how I survive in that. I do have a tendency in my jobs that I would kind of start isolating myself, and then I start doing things that not everyone knows, and at some point no one knows how something's getting done, but I'm doing it. But like my managers start ignoring me, so that's what saved me, because I was like, bro, this is heaven for me. Like,
You
I don't
flew
like
under the radar the whole time.
I don't like managers. And not even it like a point, it reached a point that not even my manager knew what I was doing, like, and he didn't know how to do it. And they put me in contact with some weird guy that we talked on Discord. Like, we didn't even use the company platform. Bro, I have him. He has like, sometimes I can see his gaming, and I would tell my nephews and my niece this story, and they would be like, bro, you're not even real. Like who is who is talking on Discord with their manager replacement But I saw it as a funny experience, but the people there like are the best example of what you're telling. They were put in a management position because they literally would kiss the feet of their managers, and it's like everyone there sounded like dead, you know. So that's one of the things that make me question what's the future. What does the future look like here for me? And you know, people that deal with money have this sense of I don't know, like I know something that no one else knows. I know how money is made, produced, and I'm just thinking, bro, this is a casino. Like, what are you talking about? Like, nobody knows anything. But yeah, I don't know why I mentioned that story.
And
but
just like in a casino, the dealer always wins, and it's the same shit for the government.
yeah. And yeah, maybe just to end on this note, if no one wants to say this, I just wanted to ask you, Marvin, because I felt it was a loose end. At the very beginning, when I mentioned the story about, you know, like some woman that would, in hindsight, after getting pregnant, think, oh, maybe that he wouldn't have made a good dad. I should have thought about that beforehand. You were mentioning something about I don't know what it is, but the explanation you gave, I don't know if you got the opportunity to answer the question if you have noticed that in women. I think you talked about something else about family and indoctrination, but not specifically.
I have noticed. My answer was more like I was trying to explain why those women specifically would not ask the question, because it was normal for them to just have a kid, and it's like you turn a blind eye because of feelings and whatnot. But yeah, I have noticed it a lot, and to honestly, it ties it all back to society. But there's also a lot of these cases more towards lower classes, lower economical classes, because there's also less culture, less, not intelligence, but you know what I mean. Less education, exactly. So when you're more educated, you also historically tend to focus more on career because you have better opportunities, and poorer people tend to have more kids and at a younger age. So it also leaves the room open for more, without even talking about teenage pregnancies, but young pregnancies. And they have kids right away, they have a lot of kids, they don't necessarily have the knowledge of protection also, like how to not have kids, in fact, or they might not have access to it. And it creates a lot of inequality, but also I feel like those behaviors, even if they're seen in every age range and in every social classes, they're more prominent with the poorer ones because of all those reasons.
Right.
I think it's a lack of education, lack of knowledge, and just overall, it's more of a risk-taking mentality, because when you have quote unquote nothing to lose or less to lose, I feel like you're more inclined to make those decisions, because just like we go with the flow. I love this person and it is what it is, because you're probably maybe not thinking as much, and it's a mix of a lot of factors that influence that. But it's seen everywhere, it's observed. Like we know that younger pregnancies with kids that are not taken care of properly, because oftentimes that's what it leads to, and it factors into overpopulation as well. It does, it really does. The fact that whenever you see families of, like, without even talking about 10, 12 kids, you see already 4, 5, 6, and from what I've seen, they're either on the poor side and on the lower classes economically, or on the extremely rich side, that they have a lot of children that they use nannies to take care of and whatnot. Like the parents are not here because they're working, but it disrupts the childhoods of everyone, and it makes non-calibrated adults, if you will.
It's almost ironic how full circle it is. Like you go to either extreme and they both meet in the same thing, that is like they both have children in the case of the rich, it's not lack of education. It's the
No.
simple thing of I can, so I will.
Exactly.
And then in the case of the poor, is lack of education truly most of the time.
And I think lack of access of protection as well, because they're not necessarily taught that they can have those things. They know about condoms, but they don't know about every medical procedures that you can have also to prevent this from happening.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever heard of lower economical class man talking about a vasectomy? Never. This is not a thing that happens. I don't want to make generalities, but you know what I mean. And the middle class is in the middle, being pulled from all sides. So we're all, because we're middle class,
That's
also
why the middle class decided not to reproduce anymore.
we're just asking ourselves question: am I ready for this? Do I want this? Is that okay for me financially? Can I survive with the kid? Can I do this and that? We ask all those questions that that are forced on ourselves, when the poorer classes don't ask those questions because they don't have the knowledge of that. And the richer, they don't even have to ask the question because there's no problem. So it's like they have kids, and the middle classes, which makes the biggest size like portion of the population, they're not having kids anymore because they don't want it anymore. They're like, if I'm gonna make a kid, for my kid to be abused, for my kid to suffer through global warming, through droughts, they're gonna lack things, and it's scary. The future is scary, and that's why the middle class don't want kids anymore.
I'm just wondering, like, how do you? I struggle with this. I can't imagine parents, but how do you explain a little kid this world? Like, I'm honest. Like, how do you explain? And that's where, when you grow up and you see these things, like, at some point they stop surprising you. Like, there was a point where, like, I did try to make changes, and I was able to eliminate like huge fees for customers, investors, that they never check their statements, and we were pretending that they were having a positive return. They were actually losing money, and I, was so committed to that, and that was like an initiative that I took on. But then, like, a new manager, like, unmade that, and they actually started taking more money from people without them knowing. And how do you explain a kid? Because they have, like, when you look at a kid, like, their outlook, their vision of the world is so hopeful. Like, everything is amazing. Like, there's so much creativity. It's like Anna wouldn't stop, like, doodling, is that a word, on her notebook. We were teenagers, but I mean, when you're a kid, existing seems like the best thing ever. Like, are we going to play? Are we going to the park? You're exploding with existence, right? And then at some point, like, the illusion we have created crushes you, right? And all these thoughts, like, that you have, that might have a good consequence, like, what if, like, who would be the fighter, like, if they didn't get paid, and who would make this stuff, and all that gets, like, shut down. And I just feel sad, honestly, for kids and the future generations. That's what makes me sad.
I think that as parents, you have a duty to stay optimistic. I don't think you can tell them the earth is getting warmer, pollution is going to kill us all. Like, you cannot say that. I think that the best way forward is to tell them about science and all the advancements that we've made and all the possible things that we could do in the future, like cure cancer, like revert maybe global warming if it's even possible. And it's like, there's so much wonders in the world that through it all, because I know we've been very negative today, but if we can make a more hopeful, optimistic conclusion, I think it's this one. I think that not everything is to throw away in humanity, and not everything is lost always. Like, I know I tend to be very down when it comes to these things, because it's hard to see the positive when it comes to the way society is moving forward. You see declining in population, you see people getting poorer, you see living conditions degrading, you see in the same city there is
war, like, that's the thing.
Exactly, war, death, famine, like people are dying every single day, and something that used to freak me out was they always told me that every whatever amount of seconds someone dies in the world, and I was like, oh my god, it's never stopping. What is that? Like,
Yeah.
I used to go crazy over that, but it's such a huge scale, and we've come so far, even in the positive things. We're developing new medicine always, but there's always a downside to everything. Like, the best miracle drugs have the big pharma side to them, that they want to make more money, so they make it more expensive. But the miracle of science is still there. Like, we've made this, and we will continue to make this. I genuinely believe that one day we're going to be able to develop drugs that prevent us from exercising, for example, from being like in top physical shape always.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
It would be nice. Like, I think we're gonna be able to cure cancer, to cure HIV, to cure all those things, and I believe that it's not too late to save the planet and to save ourselves, but there's changes to be made. And I feel like that's the only thing that we can say to kids right now in that state of the world, to tell them to keep hoping and maybe to be part of that change.
I mean, the thing is that I think that, like you said, you need to keep the hope of children, because, like Miguel said, at some point that dies within you, that it doesn't die on its own. Like, you start hearing your parents, you need to find a job, you need to find something that makes you money, you need to grow up, you need to realize things. And I'm like, dude, I've been a kid for however many years, and then boom, you tell me, oh, by the way, reality is this, and it's like a splash of cold water. But if you, first of all, it would be ideal if you have a kid in an ideal situation of, you have the money to have the kid and you can support their lives, and etc., etc. So let's put ourselves in that ideal situation, and then you actually support your child and guide them in a way that their life doesn't become miserable at the age of, I don't know, 15, where you tell them, oh, you have to earn money, you're gonna have to find a job, and hopefully you can guide them into because the world is changing, jobs are not available like they used to be, having a degree doesn't mean anything anymore. So it's like, maybe it's better to keep their hopes up in a way of, you're gonna be with them along the way, you know, and not just tell them the world is dying, figure it out, you know, because that's very much what our parents told us. It's like, yeah.
What did you say? Did you say we're all dying? Did you say that?
Like, the world is dying, so figure your shit out, you know, like, find a way.
Bro, I have
that
something.
Could be the end quote. The world is dying, and figure it out.
Figure it out. You know, I'll end this with this, because I look up to her, and I feel she like encapsulates what we have discussed today. Mikasa. Her famous saying, this world is cruel, but it is also beautiful. And bro, that gives me chills every time I just think about it.
That's true.
And that's the duality of existence, you know, like cruelty, death, and I'll end with this. It is crazy to me. I thought about this, and I thought about telling you the other day. In the first episode of Attack on Titan, when you see this scene that is often replayed when Eren sees his mother being eaten by the Titan, often the focus is put on Eren's face, like how traumatized he was. But if you look at the same scene, although it's not given a lot of emphasis, if you look at Mikasa's face as a child looking at Eren's mom being crushed, she might even have a worse face, like a shock face, like might be even worse, that her expression might be worse. And I'll end with this, you know, like you can see that reality in front of you and still choose to hold on to the beauty. And for me, you know, the world is what it is, but at least I can speak with you guys, you know, so that will be my ending.
That's beautiful.
Thought. Yeah.
Holy crap.
That's a good ending for once.
At least I pulled one off. Just kidding.